one final time in Oxnard, California, we welcome you to Inside Cowboys training camp driven by Ford. Alongside Haley Sutton, I'm Kyle Yeomans, where it's the final practice behind us on the Oxnard playing surface as Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys get ready to go back to Seattle first and then, of course, return back to Frisco. It's been a great camp so far. We've seen so much from the youth of this football team, meshing with the veterans. What's been your overall thought of how this training camp has looked?
Well, since it's been my first training camp, I didn't really know what to expect. You know, you expect a lot of football practices, you expect a lot of press conferences, but I really am impressed with how much of a jump this team has made just in the 3-4 weeks that we've been out here. Mike McCarthy has continued to echo that this is the environment he wants his team to be in. It's why they didn't do any joint practices with any other team, because he feels like this is the most competitive atmosphere he can create for his team going forward. So just excited to see their growth going into that second game.
And a lot of today's practice is really preparing for that second preseason game against Seattle. They have one in the books already, have a chance to really improve going into preseason week 2. Who do you feel like, at least maybe from an individual standpoint, we'll start with individuals, who do you feel like takes that next step just from one game to the next?
Well, I'm definitely keeping my eye out on Mazi Smith going into game 2. Obviously, being the first-round draft pick for the Cowboys this year, he already had some eyes on him. He had over 30 snaps in Saturday's game, and I tell you what, when I came out here to practice earlier before they got started, he was one of the first players on the field. He was working with Coach Dirty on some pass rushing stuff, on some hand drills as well with the coach. So already kind of take that next step, seeing what he needs to improve on from Saturday's game and taking that in, and really the responsibility that comes with that, being a young player like that, knowing you need that extra work. Good on him, and I'm hoping to see that translate on Saturday.
32 snaps for Mazi Smith in his preseason debut. He had 15 pass rush snaps, 17 snaps against the run. Great work for the first-round rookie, and somebody that, of course, like you said, Cowboys Nation is intrigued about and ready to watch, including myself. I want to see him do more against Seattle as well. Let's talk about position groups now. Who do you feel like is your position group to watch as you head into that matchup with the Seahawks?
Well, it's the one position I think that everyone has had question marks on since Ezekiel Elliott was no longer a part of this team. It's that running back room. We saw a lot of work from Rico Dowdle as the number 1 in Saturday's game, the number 2, I presume, going into the season. But he has some things to work on as well. Malik Davis has kind of gotten some work this week at practice, along with, of course, the people's champ, Deuce Vaughn, getting in there. But I'm really just excited to see, especially with Zach Martin being back here, how that kind of impacts the rest of the offensive line and in return can help open up some of the run game on Saturday.
And that's not the last thing we're going to talk about when it comes to the ground game. We're going to talk more running backs when we come back as Patrick No-See Walker joins the show, and maybe he's got a favorite for RB2. Is it Rico Dowdle? Is it Deuce Vaughn? We'll tell you about it next when we come back with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp right after this.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's been a while since you played.
Yep. It just comes down to reps. Just getting all the reps we can. Just trying to make it for a lost time. But we'll get it back. We already had a natural connection, so it shouldn't be hard to get that.
What was the reaction when you guys saw him?
Oh my gosh, I hugged him forever. Everyone was smiling ear to ear. He's the heartbeat of the team. One of the leaders, so it was really good to see him back here.
Welcome back into Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford, as we hear from Terrence Steele, brought to you by Sleep Number with Haley Sutton. I'm Kyle Yeomans, joined by Patrick No-See Walker of DallasCowboys.com. And Patrick, you heard from Terrence there. It was exciting to see Zach Martin back on the practice field Monday. Same thing today, getting him back out there and working. What are the overall impacts of his return?
First of all, can relate on the excitement, Terrence. But the overall impact, it can't be quantified really, because you talk about Terrence Steele coming back from that torn ACL. He's looked good thus far in camp, but having Zach Martin back to his left side is going to help that much more so. So Terrence Steele's looking like prime form. Zach Martin's impact goes there, but also it helps with the younger guys. He gets to coach them up rep after rep versus during the holdout not being able to do so. So Zach Martin, welcome home.
It's nice, too, when you think about the other positions, and we've talked about it a lot on Inside Cowboys training camp this week. His impact goes so much further than just the offensive line, particularly with the running back room. I know you had some conversations with some of those guys. What is that shaping up to be in that room?
Well, when you're talking about the running back room, obviously you're talking about Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdle. Want to see what you get from Malik Davis. He's looking for an improved game against the Seattle Seahawks, but also rookie Hunter Lipke. Ronald Jones, that's a huge variable here. Ronald Jones, the veteran, two-time Super Bowl winner. He looks like he's going to be out against the Seattle Seahawks as he continues to battle that groin injury that kept him out against the Jacksonville Jaguars, also facing 2-game suspension. How does that play out as this preseason rolls along? Because if Deuce Vaughn continues to do what he's doing, Rico Dowdle, the fumble notwithstanding, he looks primed to be RB2. Things are shaking out there. Where does Ronald Jones land in that equation? That's a conversation the Cowboys are going to have.
So without him in the equation, and of course no Tony Pollard there as well, what do you feel like the rotation will look like on Saturday against Seattle? Do you think it'll be much of the same as what we saw in preseason week number 1, or do you think it switches up a bit?
I think it'll be similar in the aspect of Mike McCarthy is trying to get an equal amount of reps, if at all possible. But with Malik Davis only getting 4 handoffs, I expect that you'll see more in that capacity because they want Malik Davis to get into a rhythm to see what kind of production he can do and what kind of good reps he can stack. Deuce Vaughn, you're still going to see plenty of him. Obviously, Rico Dowdle as well. Hunter Lipke got a lot of play in the single running back set in the fourth quarter. I expect you'll see more of that as well against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, and the run game was of course, a big shining star in the second half of that first preseason game. It'll be tough against Seattle. They've got a pretty good front seven. Do you think Brian Schottenheimer, Mike McCarthy are going to try and open up the offense a little bit more, especially since the run game got the shine in week 1?
Texas coast offense, Kyle. I believe that the Cowboys are going to try to spread out the Seattle Seahawks defensive front to force them to have to play one-on-one whenever possible, but to also force them to have to make decisions on who's the priority. The problem is Cowboys have so many weapons, it's hard to dictate who the priority is if everyone is the priority. So I think the Cowboys are going to have a good chance here against the Seahawks.
Mike McCarthy said that they were beat in the big play category, 24-12 against Jacksonville. Maybe they try and ramp up the big plays a little bit, make it exciting for us at home. Patrick Nosey Walker joining us here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp. When we come back, we continue to look ahead as the Cowboys wrap up training camp in Oxnard. But that's not all. They'll go to Frisco pretty soon when we come back right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
For one final time here from Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford on the West Coast in beautiful Oxnard, California. Haley Sutton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. And Haley, it's not over yet. Training Camp 2023 rolls on as the Cowboys return to Frisco. Mike McCarthy and company will have a couple open practices, including Cowboys Night on August 22nd. Great for the entire family to enjoy.
Absolutely, and it's just good for that Cowboys fan base out in Dallas, out in Frisco, to get an opportunity to see these guys tidy some things up before they get ready for the regular season, especially when you think about the amount of people who have come out to training camp here in Oxnard, California. America's team has the best fan base in the world, and they travel well, so we're excited to get back to the Lone Star State.
No doubt about that. First, they got to make a trip to Seattle, up to the Pacific Northwest. 9 p.m. Central Time kickoff on Saturday as the Cowboys take on the Seahawks at Lumen Field. But that does it for Haley and I and our entire Dallas Cowboys crew, at least on the West Coast. We'll be back with more in Frisco, but we'll leave you with sounds of camp from Oxnard as we say goodbye to the West Coast.
I'm mic'd up and all that.
I ain't seen no cameras on. Don't really have a camera following me.
Yeah,
Just a mic.
Yeah, ladies, yeah. That made my dog Q mad. I don't like Q being mad.
Woo! Hey, freaking 9 out there. Freaking 9.
My brother and arm. You know how we're coming? Fergus shot. Bash Bros.
Following the whole time. I got you. It's a day's work right there. Day's work. Timmy, let them know. Day's work right there.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.